Sunday, August 9th, our reflection. Get out of the boat. What would make anyone get out of a boat in the middle of a storm? Who'd be crazy enough to even raise the possibility of challenging a storm? Who would think they have what it takes to walk on water? And are you and I willing to walk on water with the Lord's help? Another unbelievable Bible story for us to sit with on a Sunday morning. And yes, it has many rich images that bring to life God's call and assurance when we need it most. Jesus walking on water in the midst of a storm to save his disciples offers us lots of comfort and encouragement as we go through life. The story of Jesus walking on water is really linked as well to the feeding of the multitude. Both situations recall Israel's experience of tough times with the sea and the wilderness. Last Sunday, Jesus was feeding the crowds because he knew that they needed a lot of hands-on help. But today, it's more his mentoring of the disciples in their relationship with God. He's helping them mature as disciples in their call of faith to grow into an adult response to their God. For Matthew, the appearance of Jesus coming to them in the moment of darkness is more like an epiphany, a sign, like he did in the resurrection experiences. What is unique to the Gospel of Matthew is the dialogue between Peter and Jesus. It is this that I want to focus on this morning. This is where I find the most meaning, where the greatest first steps are taken. Simon Peter's the voice and heart of the disciples. He lives between fear, doubt, and faith, and they are not mutually exclusive. We have much in common with Peter and much to learn from him. I am really intrigued why his response to this moment in the storm differs greatly from the other disciples. He is terrified, like they are, by this man, this figure that's walking toward them. And even after Jesus speaks to them, they are unsure who he is and what to do. For most of the disciples, they're paralyzed by their fear. But for Peter, this is a moment of incredible risk. Lord, if it is you. What made Peter even think that it possibly could be his Lord? What gave him the courage to utter this plea? Was it faith, desperation, and based on what from his life? Had his heart been touched by Jesus before? Stop right here. In my life, I can think of times when all seemed lost, too much, or overwhelming. I couldn't see my way out, and I couldn't figure how God could even help me. And when the nudging from God would say, trust me, I am here, I can help you, I would have hoped I would have been Peter. But to be honest, Lynn was probably more like the disciples, fearing and in the boat, really wanting to respond, but not likely getting out of the boat. What about you in your life? Lord, if it is you. At first, Peter sounds as if he's giving Jesus a challenge, a command. But if we repeat the words that how Jesus heard them and how you and I have said them so often, I hear myself praying them with the need for reassurance. Lord, really, if it's you, with hope and doubt, I need it to be you. Who else can I turn to? This brings me much closer to Peter's words and tone and request. A question. What was it that convinced Peter that it was Jesus on the sea and not a ghost? What made Peter respond to this man? How good are you and I at recognizing the voice of the Lord? What helps you to hear the words? All Jesus said was come. What is it about Jesus that makes mature, rational, intelligent men and women hear his invitation to come and literally change their life in response? Like Peter stepping out of the boat into uncharted waters without any promise. The storm is still going on, and it's not going to get much more comfortable and secure. But the promise of love and compassion with this man, Jesus. That is what calls him. That first step of getting out of the boat is what a mature life of faith is all about. It never gets easier, and it requires us to keep turning back to the Lord to get us through the next time. And rather than focusing so much on Peter trying to walk on water and then out of the fear starting to drown, I much prefer and feel drawn to Peter's willingness to be vulnerable in his relationship with Jesus, regardless of the obstacles. He doesn't deny his fear, but focuses on the love for this man. Risking all to come to another, based on the intangibles of faith, trust, and love, is not simply limited to describing Peter's experience. Every time a person falls in love and commits themselves to another over the years, every time a couple gives birth to a new little life and parents them through life, every time someone reaches out to another in need and risks being rejected, every time you and I pray like never before when all seems, you are stepping out, willing to try, to fail while all the time believing somehow. Those who seek to experience God's presence need to know how to recognize it. And you know what? Recognizing the Lord in this face of love is not a one-storm success story. It's a lifetime of sinking and stepping out and fearing and stepping out and sinking and learning to count on hearing the Lord's call to come again and again. Jesus wasn't chastising them for having little faith, as much as he was reminding them that he was with them and would always be. Slowly, they were coming to realize who this man was in their life. Truly, you are the Son of God in my life. Can you think of a time in your life when you knew deep in your heart that the Lord got you through? So where do we go from here? Well, there's no time off for good behavior for the disciples, and there's lots of storms to deal with for you and I. This is the discipleship that our world needs today. So I invite you to look for signs of hope amidst the storm. And I dare, in this hope, to answer my initial questions. What would make anyone get out of the boat in the middle of a raging storm? I think of the doctors and medical staff in the IC units around the world who are risking their own lives so that others may live. I watch parents around the world leave everything behind so that their kids might one day have a better future. I see people march in the streets risking their own safety so that others might finally gain the rights and freedoms they so deserve. I admire a very committed church family, yes, you, striving for a future full of possibility for themselves and others. And who would be crazy enough to even raise the possibility of challenging the storms today? Poets and dreamers and parents and grandparents and teachers and preachers and prison chaplains and civil rights workers, all good men, women of faith, healthcare workers and ethical politicians, people who dare to pray quietly day after day, those who dare ask questions of justice and mercy. Yes, my friends, there are a lot of crazy people in the world. All those who have felt the storm and would not want others to fear such pain. Who would think they have what it takes to walk on water? This is a trick question. Anyone who has reached this age knows one can't go it alone. So without Jesus' come, nothing's possible. However, with Jesus, all is possible, and so one must believe that even with a little faith, we can join Peter. My prayer for each of you this week is that you hear Jesus say, come. Yes, come and try walking on water this week with me. How might it change your attitude toward life? What difference might it have on those around you? Well, my friends, is the alternative of staying in the same old boat worth it? Amen.